Hello, everyone, whoever is there. I hope it starts automatically for you, Necrokitty. Let's have a look. I actually have the window open myself and it has started, so that's a very good thing. Cool. So when you can see me and you can hear me, just give me a wave or something. And I'll get started for real. It says we have 3 people here. I guess that's Luke, Necro, and me. We can have fun together. So today I'm going to talk about the low fat versus the low carb diets for Nutrisystem ad. Awesome. Hi Patricia, welcome. So that's ironic. It's funny that I get a Nutrisystem ad when I've been bashing the program online, but they're more than welcome to pay me some money if they want to, like a cent or whatever I get for that. It's all adding up, so all good, all good. So I'm glad that you're here, see and hear you, doll. I'm a doll. Interesting. Good afternoon, good morning, afternoon. It's 9 a.m. here in New Zealand. I guess it's afternoon or evening most places. So what I was saying is that I'm going to talk about the low fat versus the low carb diet for weight loss today. So I have been... Someone asked me very recently about it, what I was thinking about it, and not for his own benefit, but rather for friends that suggest that that could be a good idea. So I thought, it's something that comes back. People keep bringing it up, whether that be on my channel or anywhere. And if you're having a discussion with someone and say, oh, well, it doesn't really matter, I can lose weight with whatever diet, it doesn't matter. There is research that shows that they're both equally good, etc. So I thought we would have a little look at that today. She's here. Who's here? I don't know. Maybe me. I don't know. Okay, so apparently there's a coronavirus in New Zealand now. 1 or 50 billion. I guess you meant 1 case. So I missed that. So I guess that will be something that everyone will talk about. 2 p.m. Texas time. That's not too bad. Pretty good. Yes, someone asked about it after all. I didn't want to mention any names, but now you kind of mention it yourself. But look, you're not the only one. I do hear it every now and then. I'm usually looking at things from a health perspective rather than just a weight loss perspective. But let's actually have a look at what the research says, and then I will let you know what I think about it as well. Because I, as most people, I have my opinions about things. So this study that I'm going to have a look at is a study from JAMA, and I have a link to it in the description to this video in case you want to bring it up on your computer or something. And it was a 12-month study, and they had people between 18 and 50 years old, but roughly the same amount of women as men. They were non-diabetic. They were deemed as healthy individuals with a BMI ranging from 28 to 40, which means that they are overweight or obese. So whether we want to say that that is healthy or not, it's kind of depends on the body composition a bit, but I do think that if you have a BMI of 40, unless you are a bodybuilder, you're probably not actually healthy. There's something that is not quite right there, but that's my opinion. So they also had a look at something. It's I think it's a 3 SNP genetic code that they have identified previously as being a low carb or a low fat genotype. That's how they label it, and whether that matters if you have this SNP or not when you're eating a certain diet. So, of course, you know that is a popular topic. Like it will always be until it won't anymore, which probably will take quite a while. Hi Gungfu, nice to see you. And yay, I got my first super chat. Pim pam pum. Thank you, Fatnado. Thank you so much. So that is my very first super chat. I might have to do something with that because that's pretty cool. I've never had a super chat before. I've had some. I've had a couple of. I haven't seen him for a while. Dragonfire and Necrokitty have been contributing on Streamlabs, and also God, what's your name? Where are you, UK person? Unfortunately, I had to accept that donation, and I didn't, so that went back. But that's all right. Yay! Yes, you're my first. I will love you forever. Okay. Well, thank you all anyway. Okay, so if I'm getting lost in the chat here, I'm gonna lose track of what I was doing. So I'm gonna jump back to try to focus on what I'm doing. Thank you so much anyway, Fapnado. Yes, so they were deemed to be healthy. That was their conclusion. They're metabolically healthy in terms of insulin resistance, etc. But they did have a look at that. So the results that they got after 12 months, because this is a 12-month study, was that on average, the low carb group lost 13 pounds or 6 kilos, and the low fat group lost 12 pounds or 5.3 kilos. So there is a difference. It's not huge, and they deemed it to not be statistically significant. So they're saying that you can lose weight on either diet, and they're equally good. And the main conclusion from that was, as long as the diet is healthy, whether that be low carb or low fat, you can lose weight on either diet. They also concluded that the genotype pattern did not matter, or the baseline insulin secretion, which they measured after 30 minutes only, doing an oral glucose tolerance test. It didn't matter either. What was most important is that they were eating real unprocessed foods. So this is interesting as well. So to their conclusion, they added that it's not helpful to direct individuals with high insulin secretion who wants to lose weight to follow a low carb diet rather than a low fat diet. So they concluded that that's not useful at all. So there you go. So what's the problem here? If we're just reading the title, we read the conclusion, we would think that, sure, okay, I want to lose weight. I can do it either with low fat or low carb, and it will be equally good. But in my opinion, to start with, my biggest issue here is that they haven't actually looked at a low carb diet. So what they did was, for the first 8 weeks, they actually instructed the participants to reduce their fat or carbs to less than 20 grams per day. And that is actually pretty good, because if you're eating less than 20 grams per day, I would say that you're pretty low carb. And if you're eating less than 20 grams of fat per day, you're probably very, very low fat. And that's very unhealthy, in my opinion. And the priority was on for the low fat group to cut out things like fatty meats, edible oils, nuts, and dairy. And for the low carb group, they focused on cutting out cereals, rice, starchy vegetables, legumes, and sugar, that sort of thing. So after the first 8 weeks, they were instructed to start adding fat or carbs back into their diet in increments of 5 to 15 grams per day. So what they did is that they actually had a proper low carb diet for the first 8 weeks, or that was the intention anyway, that they were instructed to go really low carb, which I think would have been useful if they could do that for a year. But now they instruct them to start adding them in 5 to 15 grams per week until they feel like they are at a level which they can sustain for an indefinitely long period of time, however long that takes. So if you can't do super low carb, then just start adding your carbs back in and stop when you are satisfied. So that might have meant for some individuals that might have been very low, for some that might have gone, quite overboard. I don't have the individual figures, but I can imagine that also impacted the weight loss that they saw. So both groups were also told to maximize the vegetable intake and minimize added sugars. So not just sugars, added sugars. So it's fine if it's fruit juice, I guess. It's fine if there's fruit or something else that has natural sugar in them. They were also told to minimize intake of refined flours and trans fats and focus on whole foods that were minimally processed, nutrient dense, and prepared at home if possible. Okay? So overall, I don't have a huge problem with this recommendation, although I do have a problem with adding both, or specifically carbohydrates, back into your diet. The fat was probably a good thing to start adding in because no one will do very well on the 20-gram fat per day over the long term. They were also encouraged, but they didn't monitor it, or they didn't force them to do it, or measure anything, to follow the physical activity recommendations, which we covered here in a few weeks ago, with the 30 minutes walking per day or whatever nonsense that is. And the way they were measuring all of this was with a 24-hour dietary recall data collection. So I have been talking about this before as well. When we do a 24-hour dietary recall data collection, what we're doing is that by the end of the day, we might sit down and we're writing down everything that we ate. The error when we're doing this is massive. And I mean massive. They might calculate it for about 10%, that we're underreporting with 10% of what we're actually eating. I actually forgot to check if they did that, but that's usually what the standard is, or it used to be anyway, unless they've updated that. So I think that if you're doing this for 365 days, you're going to get pretty sick of reporting every day what you're eating. So you're probably not going to do it every day. So the 24-hour recall is probably going to be something more like 72 hours. You just start doing it whenever you remember it. So I think the error is massive. And the things that we tend to forget about is when we're overeating, the massive portions that we're eating, we kind of tend to underreport that. And also little things like, there is a bowl of candy at work and I ate 2 of those. Am I going to remember that 2 days later? Am I even going to remember that tonight? It's really easy for our minds to just cut that out because it's not something that we want to share with others, and it's not something that we are proud of, and it's not something that we think actually matters that much. And it might not matter. 2 little sweets might not matter that much, but it might still, add up over time. And one thing that I noticed looking at the total energy intake in both groups is that they had reduced their calories with 500 calories per day on average for the whole year compared to what their diet was before they started. And I'm not really so sure that I believe that, but that's just me. So for both of these diets, I think both of them can absolutely be considered to be low carb and low fat for the 8 weeks that they did in the beginning, if they follow the guidelines. But we don't know. because they haven't even reported the data for 8 weeks. They've reported data for 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. And I think that is really a shame, because I would really like to see the data for 8 weeks if people were following this, because that would have been more interesting to me. So when you start adding fat and carbs back into your diet, this is what you're going to end up with. I'm going to screen share with you. Hang on. Let's see if it's this one. Here we go. So this is what happened after 12 months. So the low fat group had I hope you can see my mouse arrow here. They were eating 45% carbs, 21% protein, and 29% fat. This is after 12 months. And the low carb group was eating 30% carbs, 45% fat, and 23% protein. So you might want to think, 30% energy percent, that is, carbs. Is that really a low carb diet? I don't think so. Unless you're eating a very, 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 very low carb, low energy diet as well, or low calorie diet, then maybe 30% wouldn't be that much. But this isn't actually the case. So let's hop over to the actual figures. That looks a little bit fussy to me when it's blown up like that, but I hope you can see it. So the first one here is the low fat diet group, and the other one is the low carb diet group. So the amount of carbs that they were eating after 3 months, for the low fat, that was around 200 to 244 grams of carbs per day, which I think is, quite a lot. And that's going to happen when you're eating low fat, because you have to replace it with something, and usually we don't replace it with protein. Low carb, the first 3 months on average was 97. So you're just wondering, this is an average over 3 months, I guess, and 8 weeks is pretty much 2 months. So did they actually stick to the 20 grams? I'm wondering. I can't see that happening, because if everyone was eating 20 grams of carbs for 8 weeks, and then you have another 5 weeks to make up for 3 months, pretty much, they must have eaten a massive amount of carbs to get an average of 97, and I don't think that was the case. So either way, I think they have failed to make this a really low carb diet, even in the first 8 weeks. But that's just my guess. And then obviously they were instructed to increase the carbs until they found a level that they could sustain over time. And this seems to be going up, not too much over the, up to 6 months, a little bit, but then it starts going up even more to 12 months. And anyone who's eating 132 grams of carbs per day is not, in my opinion, low carb. And here we just have the percentages, how many percent of your total calorie intake is the carb intake. So that's between 23 and 30. Still a bit high, I think. I think it should probably be, 10-15% at least, and that is maximum, to start seeing some real benefits. But that's just me. Fat intake. Low fat group, over the first 3 months, their average was 42 grams of fat per day. And that is pretty low. That is too low, in my opinion. And they increased this slightly to 50 and then 57%. And the low carb group, as you can see, is pretty stable with the amount of fat that they're eating. So it's not a lot changing here, which is kind of good, but 85 to 90 grams of fat per day, if you're having a proper low carb diet, is probably not enough. But when you're actually eating, the amount of carbs, the 100 grams, whatever, it's probably, where you're going to end up, because you are eating way too many carbs. Percentages down here, I don't know if you want to have a look at that, but roughly low carb is, let's say, 45 to 50%, and the low fat is between 24 and 29. So generally, a low fat diet is defined as a diet that is lower than 30 energy percent of fat. So actually they have managed to stay within that limit if we want to use that limit. Just a quick look at protein. This is not anything that has changed a lot actually. The percentages are between 21 and 22% for the low fat group, and the low carb between 23 and 26. So that's pretty stable. Obviously, the low carb group, as expected, is a little bit higher in protein, and that's also to make up for the loss of the carbs, especially when they haven't gone higher in fat. So that's pretty much what we could expect from that. Having said that, 80 to, between 80 and 100 grams of protein is probably enough for most people. So I don't have a problem with these figures in general. It's probably a good number for both groups, depending on, how large you are, etc. But it's all good. And I just wanted to bring up a few more stats that they had, just to have a quick look at that. And so they recommended that they didn't eat any added sugars. And the low-fat group, on average, is eating about 30 grams of added sugars per day. And I'm just wondering, what are you eating to get 30 grams of added sugars every day? I have no idea, but that is a lot of added sugar every fucking day. Excuse my language. I did it. And the low carb group, the same thing, between 16 and 23 grams. If you are being low carb, you're not eating any added sugars. You just don't. I mean, seriously, that is a lot of sugar. 23 grams, 16 grams, both of them. That is not. A low carb diet doesn't have a place for lots of added sugar. If you're doing it once every week or whatever, having a low carb treat or whatever, first of all, there shouldn't be any sugar in it. But let's say anyway that you're doing it and you're just counting your carbs and you want to keep them low. But listen, they were instructed to start with eating less than 20 grams of carbs per day. But the first 3 months, they had on average 16 grams of added sugars on average every day. And again, I don't think they did this in the last 5 weeks. This must have been happening from the beginning. So this group is clearly not doing a proper low carb diet, in my opinion. Okay, and one more. So the glycemic index, it has some value. I think it has value in terms of we want to look at foods, what foods are good and bad in terms of how much they could potentially raise our blood glucose. However, I don't like the glycemic index because it will not tell you anything about how you actually react to that food. And it's also the glycemic load is actually more useful because that will tell you how you are reacting to the amount of carbs with a certain glycemic index you're eating. So the glycemic index is not too dissimilar between the two groups, but then when we're looking at the glycemic load, because the low-fat group is eating pretty much twice as much carbs as the low-carb group, they are getting pretty much twice the glycemic load, and that just makes sense. But either way, when they're saying that they can't recommend someone who is having an insulin problem to go and lose weight on a low-carb diet, why not? The glycemic load is much lower, even with a crap low-carb diet that they're doing. So that is just ridiculous, and that is just something that I put in there because there is a resistance to actually admitting that low carb is the way to go for pretty much everyone. I don't think there is any individual that would not be who wouldn't feel better doing a low carb diet. I do believe there are individuals that can do well on a higher carb diet, but I do believe that those individuals are people that are not metabolically damaged, that have been eating real proper food for their whole lives, and probably not consuming a lot of refined anything. So that is pretty much no one nowadays, no one in the industrial world anyway. So we might want to ask ourselves, what's a proper low carb diet? And I'm sure that everyone has their own opinion about what that should be. And for me, if you're just saying that I'm on a low carb diet, I'm thinking that you are probably somewhere under 30 to 50 grams of carbs per day for it to kind of classify as a low carb diet for me. If you're on a ketogenic diet, you're on even lower amount of carbs than that per day. So I thought I would Google it, and I did. And according to the American Academy of Family Physicians, a low carbohydrate diet is a diet of less than 20% of carbohydrate content per day. So what did they have? They had 23 the first 3 months, and then they had 27, then they had 30 energy percent coming from carbs. So even according to, someone as lenient as the what are they calling themselves? The American Academy of Family Physicians, this is not a low carb diet. There are people or organizations out there that consider anything that is less than 100 grams of carbs per day being a low carb diet, and there are those that say that 130 grams is the limit, in which case this study almost passes, not quite on the last not in the last 6 months. It's just above that line, but I don't think that this is a low carb diet or anywhere near it. So let me stop sharing this and get back to you and see if I can do that. Now, let me see, because I haven't been able to see any comments since I hopped out. So, So at this point, nutrient dense is starting to not mean anything. Yeah, I agree. Humanimal. I wonder though if the individual is choosing their meals and reporting or being given meals that the exact composition is known and measured. Do people cheat on these tests? So Humanimal, what they did is that I think they had 12 or 16 sessions with each group, and they were teaching them about a healthy low carb or healthy low fat diet. So they only told them that you want to eat as many vegetables as possible and you want to avoid these foods, and this is how you do it. So they were suggesting, but they didn't tell them what to eat. They rather asked them to write that down in their forms and do the 24-hour recall afterwards. So they did get to choose themselves. And I do think that people cheat a lot because you don't want to be the one that is failing. You don't want to be the one who's not doing what you have been instructed to do. So you are going to underreport whenever you're cheating. That's a point about exercise too. My walking is different to other people's. Very fast and for miles, whereas some fall class and amble as exercise. Yeah, exactly. It's very, very individual. Oh, this is actually my point exactly. So a primitive human eating 100 grams of carbs, it would be like so much. Yes. If you wouldn't find that. Even if you were digging up roots and you made a soup with roots and some meat in, and you were out collecting berries and the wild apples and crap that were growing at that time, you would struggle to get 100 grams of carbs. So I think it was Patricia who said that there was some evidence that he used to, pick apples and stuff and put them in and make a soupy, brothy mix and just eat them. But my question is, yeah, there's starch in there, but how much carbs would they get out of that? And they would eat that in autumn when you had the apples, but not so much the rest of the year. But 100 grams, I don't think they would get that out of that. I think a sustainable, sensible diet that doesn't alternate, I guess it's but one from friends, family, or alienate maybe from friends, family, outings, and choices is Mediterranean, which would have decent and decent fat, carb. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we all have to make choices about what we want our diets to be, and what, how low carb do we want to be, when do we feel best. For me personally, I like being pretty much keto, but I do also like either cycling or what I'm doing now with the blueberries, etc., and having a cheat Thursday where when we eat something, whatever we were eating out, pretty much. Well, we're not actually doing it every Thursday, but we are allowing ourselves to do it if we want to. So that is all good, and it works really well for me. If I wanted to feel even better, might have to cut that out for a while. And I'm experimenting with different things right now. Yes, low fat sounds like torture to me as well. I have never been proper low fat, but when I, you know, how many years, 20 plus years ago, when I did the diet advisors course, and I started coaching people on what to eat, etc. I tried to follow the guidelines, and that was 30% fat and 10% saturated, 10% polyunsaturated, and 10% monounsaturated fats. That's what we were recommending at the time. And just trying to do that was not too hard if you're actually eating a lot of starchy things, or pasta, etc. If you fill up on that stuff, it's easy to do, but you won't actually feel good on it. Yes, it's actually realistic to be low carb on the Mediterranean diet. Yeah, it is. You can even be keto on a Mediterranean diet. It's not that hard. It's hot when I swear. Okay, good. I'll swear again then at some point. Not right now, because that would be forced and that wouldn't be good, would it? That's true. Like, as people don't need to eat the pasta very often, it just means eat fresh fish and meat, fresh seasonal fruit and veg, olive oil, sourdough. Yeah, you can cut the sourdough, but I actually like sourdough bread. Loads of sugar, Pim. Once again, this study is shit. You said the F word, lol. Yes, I know. Sometimes I get carried away. I've said that I'm trying to not swear too much on my channel. I'll go to the Nutrition Science Watchdog and do all my swearing there. Shit, he's watching. He said get fucked. At least I know he's there, because he's not commented yet so far. So, do they base low, mid, high carb on the pyramid? I'm not sure I understand the... Okay, I think I know what you mean. I don't think they have a definition of that, like officially, but in low carb communities, there's usually a low, which is ketogenic, less than 20 or something, and then you might have a mid going up to 50 grams, and then not so low carb, anything above that. Yum, honey, and then you'll be stung by a bee. Look, man, it took me 3 weeks to find these wild potatoes, which I left to soak for 3 days before eating. Yes. So that's the thing, that they might have found some stuff and they might have eaten them and they might have been all good, but it wasn't happening every day, and it wasn't happening 365 days every year. I do forgive you for your poor typing. It's just hard for me to read. And sometimes I'm wondering if it's my English that is not good enough, or if that is actually a real word, or if it's just bullshit. So yes, we are opportunistic eaters, absolutely. And yeah, that's the problem. Since we are, and we can't really we're made that way, and that's for a good reason. But right now we're living in a world where all this shit is all around us, and we kind of need to take control of that ourselves, and that's not always easy to do. And I totally understand that. The carbs taste nice. Clearly, we need to go to Brazil to get a lot of honeybees, wild ones. Exactly, bloody Loki. Necrokid ate 5 strawberries and a handful of blueberries this month. I've been cutting down on the sweets. Yes, a handful of blueberries. Well, that's very good. So how is it going, Necro? Is it feeling better? Yes, I have that problem sometimes as well. You're not the only one. Thank you, SBG Rules. We're awesome. Thanks for your content, science, and insight. You're welcome. So now I'm at the end there, so I'm going to continue with. I had a few more things to just say about this. I can't remember where I was though. Okay, so this study in general, I think that first of all, it doesn't really address the difference between a low carb and a low fat diet at all. It's just having two actually not two dissimilar diets where one is lower in fat and one is lower in carbs than the other. But if you want to actually assess a low carb diet, you need to go low carb. You need to go so low that you're not going to mess with your hormones, and they haven't done that. And you know, when they were testing the insulin response after an oral glucose tolerance test, they only tested 30 minutes. So anyone that had an excessive amount of insulin released after 30 minutes, they didn't see any difference between the two groups. And that's because both groups were eating quite a lot of carbs. If you're eating 3 times per day and you're eating 100 grams of carbs, you're going to have at least 30 or 40 grams of carbs every bloody time you're having a meal, unless you're having snacks as well. And then you're going to have this insulin being released throughout the day, all day long. And that is not going to be very beneficial if you want to lose weight. So they haven't really looked at what they said they were going to look at. And that is a huge problem, I think, because now they have a title that would tell people that both of these diets are equally good if you want to lose weight, but they haven't actually looked at both those diets. They have maybe managed to look at a low-fat diet somewhat, but I don't think they managed to look at a low-carb diet properly. And even so, this failed low-carb diet, people actually lost more weight than they did in the low-fat diet. So there you go. The low-carb diet also, I think they did eat pretty much twice the amount of fat. Not quite. But you all know, because most of you here are quite educated, and you know that when you're eating a lot of fat and you're eating carbs together, it's just not a good idea. If they would have eaten the same macros, and they would have, let's say they would have had, separated the carbs and the fat and done, let's say, all the fat in the morning and all the carbs in the evening, maybe they would have got a different result as well. I don't know how much or if, but that's also an interesting thought. So I'm not sure it's any point for me to, state the obvious here, but the low carb group wasn't doing low carb. And even if you wanted to classify it as low carb, if you're under 130 grams per day, I think, we need to have like an official guideline or limit for what is actually a low carb diet, because this way people are just doing things and they're making up a study and they say that it's low carb because they were instructed to go lower on carbs, and then they say that it is low carb when they were also instructed to increase the carbs until they felt like they could sustain on that diet. And that's always going to creep up. So if we were going to look at this in another year from when they finished, how far up would those carbs be? Would they still be lower than the other group? Maybe. Would they still be low? Bread will probably be a lot higher. That's what I think anyway. So the amount of carbs that they were eating, so between 100 and 130 grams, I think if you have a really healthy body and a healthy metabolism, you are going to be able to handle that. And I think a person who doesn't have any problems probably going to do okay on such a diet. It's not going to be ideal, but it's certainly going to be a lot better than doing a low-fat, high-carb diet. Oh, excuse me, I get hiccups here. So to answer the question about whether you can lose weight on a low carb as well as a low fat diet, the answer is yes, I'm sure you can. Clearly, they could lose weight on a semi low carb diet, or a moderate carb diet if you want, and also a low fat diet, even though the low fat diet actually did not lose as much weight. You can also lose weight on the pineapple diet. You can lose weight by eating cotton balls. You can lose weight by going on the cabbage soup diet. You can lose weight doing any sort of ridiculous diet that you want, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be healthy for you. And we're often forgetting about the health aspect when we're just looking at, we want to lose weight. So, is the low-fat diet going to be healthy for you? No, it's not going to be healthy for you. Because we need the fat for our sex hormones, we need it for our cell membranes, we need it for our brains. And if we're cutting all of that out, we're not going to feel good. We're going to promote inflammation. We're going to get stiff joints. We're probably going to get dry skin. You might get thyroid problems. There's so many things that could go wrong if you were actually eating a very low-fat diet, like under 20 grams that they recommended. That is ridiculous. It's really, really not good for you. If you were staying at 30 energy percent, you might be okay. I still think that is a little bit low. And I definitely don't think it's ideal. So just because you can lose weight on another diet, it doesn't mean that it's going to be healthy for you. But if you want to go on a crash diet and lose weight quickly, I say, why would you try to do the banana-only diet or the cabbage soup diet when you can actually just do fasting, which is much more healthy for you? So if you really, really, really do want to lose weight quickly and you want to do it now, why not fast? That is the natural way of actually losing weight, and it's not going to be unhealthy for you, unless you go on for months maybe. If you're underweight, and then you shouldn't want to lose weight, then it's not going to be good for you. But for anyone who has an amount of body fat, it's not a problem. Just fast. So just, if you want to lose weight, just keep in mind, try and do it in a healthy way, not by doing crazy shit. So I think health and well-being is so much more important than your absolute weight. So that's just my opinion. Yes, you can lose weight on a low-fat diet if you want to, but why would you want to do that when it's healthy for you to do it on a low-carb diet? It's just my question to you. Now, I understand that this was for some of your friends that were asking this, and you can just, tell them that do whatever you want, but you're probably not going to feel as good as you would if you were doing it on a low-carb diet. So we're told to treat ourselves, yes, but why do we have to treat ourselves with food? That's because we've always done that and we keep doing it. That's just something that we do. And we kind of associate treating ourselves with eating a treat rather than, going for a massage or doing something fun or whatever. Buy something. Made chicken egg paste thing cooked into something resembling a chicken nugget. Tired as hell now. Chicken not even once. Chicken egg paste? That sounds strange. Blueberries work good with me. Prunes are the worst for your gut. Yeah. Well, if you need, if you don't want to take an enema or something, you can always have some prunes, and that might work. Necro, yeah, I've been feeling better until I had food poisoning. Oh, I just recovered, so I'm good now. What did you get? What did you eat to get food poisoned? What's my take on Stephanie Pearson's recommendation of 200 grams of fat per day? Ooh, that's a lot. Okay, I think 200 grams of fat per day might be all right if you're a large person. I am not sure. If you were listening to my interview with her, I asked her, do you recommend this for, even a tiny woman and a large man? And she said yes. And I don't really understand this, because a tiny person wouldn't eat as much naturally, doesn't have the same energy requirements as someone who's twice the size and twice the weight. So I would rather look at, energy percentages and say 70 to 80% maybe of your total intake could be fat. That's usually the range where most people feel good. And that's what I would aim for. So I would struggle to eat 200 grams of fat per day. I don't see the point of eating that much fat. Trying to do a quick calculation in my head. So, as I said, that is like 1800 calories. And, how many calories do I need per day? And maybe that's how much I need. Maybe I need 2000. And let's say 2000 because that's easy to calculate. So, 80% of 2000 is 1600. So, I'm close, but not that much. So, I do not agree with that. I don't think that that's what you should be doing necessarily as a hard and fast rule. I think rather go for the 70 to 80% of fat. I would eat the fat before I would go for the carbs, to be honest. Good for you. I probably wouldn't necessarily. I like my sugars. I have had raw orange blossom honey over here. It has helped severely reduce my hay fever. It's also very tasty and citrusy, which makes it ideal for making lemonades. That sounds pretty nice. I've tried that before for my allergies, but it hadn't really worked, but maybe I wasn't consistent enough. Is it mild shellfish allergy if you get headache, sleepy after eating shrimps? Could be. If it's just after you eating shrimps every time, you might want to kind of have a look at how they are prepared as well. So what are they cooked in? Are you just eating shrimps, or are you eating something else with the shrimps? I would try to just eat shrimps and nothing else and see what actually happens then, and if you get the same thing. And if you do, it might be a problem. I just think the whole carb amount was low enough not to be of detriment to normal metabolism. I find unlikely they would time it. Time it? Mauro, I'm not sure I understand. Can someone translate? I find it unlikely they would time it. I don't know what you mean with that. But yes, I agree. If you have a well-functioning metabolism and you at least moderately active, you can probably deal with 100 grams of carbs per day. But I think lower is better. If they thought food pyramid is regular carb, then low carb is a whole lot of carb in comparison. Yes, that's true. Necrokitty, just telling them that the super low carb diet isn't sustainable also messes with people. Yes, absolutely. I don't really know where this is coming from. Is it just coming from the addict mindset that I can't do without the carbs, so I need carbs? Maybe in combination with that, there is a lot of money in selling carbs and snacks containing carbs, etc. But yes, it's absolutely sustainable. The problem with it is it's hard to sustain if you're a food addict and you're living in our society and you want to eat the same food as everyone else does, and you can't find low carb foods when you go out eating. But we can change all that by asking for it. I live in Nelson in New Zealand, and people are very, very health conscious here. Almost everywhere where you go, they have a keto alternative, which is quite amazing actually. So they might sell burgers, and then yes, you can get it wrapped in lettuce if you want. So they always I'm not saying not everyone does this, but I do see it a lot that there is a keto alternative. So you can pretty much almost anywhere you go here get a low carb alternative. Hey man, hello, hey man. I'm good. I'm good. I'm getting better. I've had a rough week in terms of energy, etc. And I think it's because we've been doing a lot of renovations on the house. Him more than me, but I've been stuck up here working, trying to get things happening, working full time, being down there helping on my week off doing renovations. And last weekend I left early from work to go down on Friday and just do the last bits and cleaning, etc., which totally broke me or us both. I think we've both been very, very tired this week. I've been sleeping more than normal and been more tired than more normal. God, I'm losing my voice. So yes, last couple of days have been better. I've had a little bit more energy, but yesterday I had a siesta in the middle of the day. So that was my Saturday, and that was brilliant. I think I really needed that. Yes, my video suddenly turned very yellow-green. So that's the sunshine outside. I guess it's the light from outside. I don't have nice studio lights or anything in here. I usually rely on the windows providing me with what I need. Yeah, low fat is not sustainable. Your body will starve. Yeah. I've done the cabbage diet. No, just no. Okay, you're crazy, Shell, but yes, I don't. I can't even imagine doing it. That must be horrible. Yes, you can lose weight on a pancake diet. So if you are eating just pancakes, you're probably going to get pretty sick of them after a while. So you're going to stop eating as much. Let's see. Body image affects how without men feel about a healthy weight. They can feel that SNY body fat is overweight. Fucking hell. I don't understand all these things. SNY, what does that mean? I can't even find it. I'm sorry, I have no clue what you're saying, but I'll just agree. Older ladies need that fat. It's easy to do crazy shit when you're younger. Yeah. You can get away with it when you're younger. That's the thing that I can't even remember how old I was. I was not old. I love food, but I really, even at a very young age, I was maybe 10, 12. I had this book it was a recipe book. It was quite thin, and it had listed the calories, total calories for all the meals. And I loved cooking, and this is what actually sparked my interest for nutrition and the whole how it works when you are gaining weight, the calories, what you can eat, etc. So I came up with this brilliant idea that if I'm eating this many calories every day, I will not get fat. I mean, talk about screwing with your head at a very young age. So if I was going to the shops and I just bought a bag of toffees or something, I knew how much calories they contain, and I could just, eat less dinner or whatever, and I could compensate for that. And that's how how I started out on, being interested in this area at all. And that is just so fucked up. Like how at the time it was just calories. No one really talked about carbs or fat or where it came from. It was the amount of calories that you ate that would determine whether you would put on weight or not. So yeah, that was some crazy shit. Mm. Oh, holy shit. Treat yourself with some grass-fed kidney. Oh, I can't really do kidneys. I find them horrible. Accepting a healthy level of fat padding means we will treat our bodies better and be kinder. Yeah, I mean, we don't all need to be skinny. We just need to be healthy. Whether that means having a little bit of fat or having a little bit more fat. Some people are going to struggle to lose all the fat and being super ripped because we've, treated our bodies a certain way for many, many years, and maybe eating the right foods will only take you so far because that's what your body decided to do. Maybe it takes you 10 years to get down a little bit, and you won't know until in 10 years' time. Can I talk a bit about people on carnivore diets with kidney problems? Apparently, there are some people getting insulin resistance from eating too much protein. Thoughts? I'm not sure I know a lot about kidney problems on the carnivore diet. I don't think the carnivore diet will cause any kidney problems. If you're having kidney problems already and you're eating a high meat diet, your kidneys are going to get loaded with a lot more amino acids to process, etc. And the load on, the what do you call it? The N group at the end of the God, I'm talking chemistry with you. The nitrogen part of the amino acids, etc. They have to be processed and turn into urea, etc. So you might increase the strain on your kidneys, which might not be ideal. If you're doing a carnivore diet the way that, let's say I'm doing a carnivore diet, I don't like to say that I'm doing carnivore diet because then people say that I'm not. I'm doing a sort of a carnivore diet with things added, a lenient one or a keto carnivore if you like. I'm not eating excessive amounts of meat. Some people like to pile on the meat and eating, a couple of kilos of meat per day or whatever. I understand why you would do this if you're losing weight, but look at how we have evolved and what we were eating back in the day. So maybe you would do this if your tribe was killing a mammoth and you would have 2 weeks of unlimited amount of meats and you might just eat and eat and eat. But this wouldn't be the case ongoingly 365 days a year. It's the same thing as with the carbs. If we do this every now and then, we will be fine. But if you're piling on the amount of meat that you're eating every bloody day, you're going to put your body under strain in some ways, and the kidneys are going to be one of those. And if you have healthy kidneys, that's not going to be a problem if you do it, intermittently. But if you are doing it pretty much every day with an existing kidney problem, you're probably going to have a lot of problems. There are some people getting insulin resistance from eating too much protein. Thoughts? I don't think that is true. That's my thought. I cannot see how that would work, really. Yes, with a lot of protein, you would have to, gluconeogenesis is basically not something that you will force your body to do in excess. You might be forcing it to do it in some excess because your homeostasis is like off balance and that your body is used to having a higher amount of sugar, or because you're already insulin resistant, your cells are going to be starving and they will say, we need more energy, and they're not going to respond to the insulin that you already have. Then you might be forcing your gluconeogenesis further than you should have, but that is responding to an already existing problem. So that might be something that you just, noticed when you were a carnivore, but you didn't notice it before. You already had it, but you didn't notice it. And insulin resistance is not something that you get over 1, 2, 3 weeks or even a year. Insulin resistance is something that you build up to over many, many years. So the first thing that is going to happen, this is why we have some people with normal blood glucose, is that you're going to slowly start producing more and more insulin to take care of all the blood sugar that you have in your blood. And that is going to while you're getting more and more insulin resistant, you're going to have to ramp it up and produce more and more insulin to keep your blood glucose stable. So if you go to the doctor and you do an oral glucose tolerance test and your beta cells are still functioning well, and they will just ramp out the insulin. But you won't see this doing this test because they only measure your blood glucose, and they usually do, I think they do 30, 60, maybe 90 and 120 minutes. And they just measure the glucose, not the insulin. There's another test which I'm actually going to make a video on this coming week, which is called the Kraft test, where they do that too. But the normal glucose tolerance test, they don't measure insulin. So you won't see that. The doctor will say like, you're fine, you're responding well to insulin, or you can store it, you're not type 2 diabetic, you can go home, be happy. The next stage is actually when you're so insulin resistant that your beta cells can't produce enough insulin to get you to store the blood glucose. That is when you're going to get elevated blood glucose levels over time. And that might be 5 years down the line. So if people are telling you that they're getting insulin resistance from eating too much protein, how long have they done the carnivore diet for? Have they done it for 10 years and they tell me that they're getting insulin resistance after 10 years on the carnivore diet, then I would believe you. If they're saying 5 years, may or may not. But clearly, something has happened here, because I think that the carnivore diet should reduce your insulin resistance over time. So my question to you would be, like, how long have these people been doing a carnivore diet? Has it been a proper carnivore diet, or are they still cheating and adding other things in? But most people haven't done the carnivore diet for that many years. So I think it's, my thoughts are that no, they do not get insulin resistance from it. Right, next. A diet rich in the only macro not required, or rich on the substance that contains fat-soluble vitamins, is low in insulin and gives us fatty acids. Take your pick. Yeah, that's what you can tell your friends. Monk mode. Hey man, my best friend is a kidney transplant patient. He does fantastically on carnivore. Helped him recover from prednisone-induced type 2 diabetes. Cool. But that's also the thing, that monk mode, how much protein does he actually eat? Because that's interesting to me anyway. Humanimals, Stephanie is very lean and I think she should have a bloods done. And yep, Heyman, that is a phenomenon right now. A protein insulin resistant effect. Iron. I'm sure she's had her bloods done. Yes, Charles, you have a clown nose. Necro, I was using an ice chest and not going home, and my cottage cheese and crab meat accidentally got too warm. I threw up during Mark's live stream and had diarrhea for 4 days. Oh, fuck me. Oh god, I'm swearing again. That sounds horrible. Thomas, yes. Hi there. I lost the chat. Here we go. Timing. Oh, okay. Maybe keeping carbs separate from fat. Yes. So what was this timing question? I can't even remember it anymore. It's gone. Trying to scroll back. Okay, so Mauro said, I just think that the whole carb amount was low enough to not be detrimental to normal metabolism. I find unlikely they would time. Okay, yes. Okay, now I get you. Thanks, Thomas. That makes a lot more sense. Luke Gear says, took me over a month of about 5 to 10 grams of honey a day by the morning to notice improvements. Okay, but that's not too long, actually. Heyman, apparently people diluting their stomach acid by eating too much meat so they can't digest the protein. Kidney issues. It's interesting. When I eat high protein, I have lower GFR. Okay. Well, I wouldn't say that you're diluting it, but there won't be enough of it. Maybe if you're eating shitloads of meat in one sitting, you're gonna have problems digesting it. So maybe not eat shitloads in one sitting. There's a solution to that. I mean, there are things that you can do. If you can't do carnivore at all, you could, do things like take betaine hydrochloric acid. There's a supplement that you can get. Betaine HCl is what it's called, to help with the stomach acid. You could also do like ox bile if you have a problem. Those sort of things. In the beginning, I don't recommend that you do that long term. I would rather you let your body adjust to it. But I would just start with not eating too much in one go. Literally, don't do OMAD in the beginning when you're doing carnivore. Just, have a couple of meals, spread it out over a few hours at least. I watched that video, Haleman. Which video? Anyway, I'm not the sub to Stephanie, but I'm starting to get curious about what she's saying. She has made mistakes when being very forceful about her beliefs. Yeah. I think that everyone has a different perspective on everything, and you have to take everything with a pinch of salt and then apply it to your needs. So whatever is working for me is not necessarily going to work for you. And what she sees is working for her and what she believes is working for her clients might be working for them. Is that the optimal way of doing it? Maybe for some people, maybe not for everyone. That's fine. And I agree about a couple of things, like the hard and fast rule about 200 grams of fat. I don't think that's necessarily the best way to go. And, some people who are very large might need more than 200 grams, and very small ones might need less. And I'm not buying into the theory on that keto would cause insulin resistance either, due to gluconeogenesis. I don't think that is correct at all. So we don't agree on everything. I think she's brilliant, and I think she's getting the message out there to many people, and she's she looks really, really good, and that's really inspiring. And as I said, when I interviewed her, I do think it's really gutsy and cool of her to do most of the live streams in a sports bra, because, she's gonna get a lot of shit for that, but she looks great, so why not just do it? Anyway, let's leave Stephanie alone. What is my opinion on apple cider vinegar? That's an interesting one. You know what? I am not 100% convinced that apple cider vinegar is doing most of the things that they say that it's doing. It might have some, benefits on blood glucose for some people that are having problems with that. It might have some other benefits for other people with certain problems. I don't think there is any harm in consuming apple cider vinegar. Let's put it like that, unless you are reacting to the histamines or the apples or something like that. But if you're not noticing anything negative from consuming apple cider vinegar, I think that you can do it. I don't think it's a huge problem. So if you feel better doing something and drinking some apple cider vinegar every day, or whatever, then just do it. I'm not sure. I know that someone, I think it's Cole Robinson with his apple cider and baking soda, apple cider vinegar and baking soda, drinking that and then drinking lemon juice for the kidneys or whatever. I'm trying to get my brain to figure out how that even would work. Because first of all, you're mixing apple cider vinegar with baking soda to protect your teeth so that you get a pH of about 7. And it feels like you're taking away the benefit that you would potentially get from either of those two by doing that. And then you're drinking lemon juice after. And that is supposed to be good for your kidneys. Some people swear by it. Physiologically, I'm not really sure how it's supposed to be working. I think it's meant to balance your pH, but our bodies are pretty good at doing that themselves. So I'm kind of skeptic to the whole theory on that, but I'm sure there are some benefits to it. As I said, with the blood glucose, if you have a problem, for example, there might be a benefit to that. So yeah, if it doesn't hurt and you feel good doing it, do it. Stephanie is dangerous to young, impressionable women, encouraging a low BMI. So I disagree with you, actually, because I think I am not sure she has an extremely low BMI. And I can't remember what she said, but she said she does have some body fat. I mean, you might get the picture that she is super skinny, but she does have body fat on her body. If I had the same amount of body fat that she has, I would not look as skinny as her. This is the thing. I have a totally different body type. My dad was from South America, and I definitely have South American hips, so my hips are much broader than hers. My shoulders are broader than hers. I'm just naturally a more broad person, if you can use that as a word. I'm not naturally huge, but I'm not super skinny either. And she looks like a very small person, both height-wise and, width-wise. So I think it's what you're reading into it, and I think it's how we're interpreting things. Because she's not. The thing is, if you're looking at her on a picture, you might think that, oh my god, I need to be skinny. But the message that she conveys is that you should be eating a lot of fat, and you should be eating a lot of food, and you shouldn't be starving yourself. So take those two together. What she's saying is actually eat a healthy diet, eat enough food, and you can still look this way, rather than go and starve yourself and do crazy shit and you will look this way. So it's totally, depending on the context as well, I think, anyway. Stephanie looks pretty good for her age, but I'm skeptical of some of her claims. I'm interested to see Bart's response. Yeah, I mean, another thing that we probably don't agree on is that she's totally against fasting. I'm not. I'm totally for fasting, unless you're not really feeling good doing it. And some people that have massive insulin resistance, the best thing you can do is fasting. But the hardest thing to do is fasting because of that, for example. So for those people, I would probably recommend to, go and start doing intermittent fasting and increase or decrease your eating window over time, for example. Back in the 70s, the term calorie and the meaning behind it was unheard of. We ate whole foods from local sources, real fucking butter, lard. Lard was way better then. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Unfortunately, I was born in the late 70s, so I grew up when they started introducing skim milk and stuff. But I remember my mom brought home, she made an experiment with whole milk and skim milk, which was 0.5% or was it 1%? Because we had two different ones in Sweden, I can't remember. I think we had the 1% first. And she told me she gave me both and said, try these. And I actually prefer the low-fat one. I don't know why. And so she started buying that. Kidney is so much nicer than liver. I don't know. I can't eat piss smelling food. Yes, hit like. People, hit like. And, guys, Fapnado, thank you again for the super chat. But if you don't want a super chat or you can't super chat, you can always make a donation over here if you want, which is more than welcome. And once again, thank you very much, Super Kitty, Necro Kitty, and I don't think Dragonfire is here, but he has been contributing before. And God, Andrew in England, yes, that's your name. And you're not here today, But if you're ever watching this on a replay, thank you so much for that. Unfortunately, I refunded your money because I didn't know that I had to accept it on PayPal. But there you go. The thought was nice of you. Okay. Humanimal. Yes, and girls get made to dislike TY at 2, 3, 6 kilos. Those few are not a problem. Being very underweight is a problem. Yes, being underweight is definitely probably more of a problem than being overweight. If we're talking just overweight, not obese. Absolutely. Okay, so it may help to close the chat window, hit the like button, and refresh live chat. Yes, you can do that. You were never really carnivore and you did it wrong. No, I've never really been carnivore. I've been trying a little bit, but didn't suit me in any shape or form, really. I mean, I like meat, but I also like blueberries. Yes, so monk mode, where should I send my card to? Humanimal disagrees. I'm carnivore. We need to redefine the meaning of carnivore. It is not an elimination meat-only diet. That has been the bollock spread in carnivore community. Well, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I would probably want to say I'm eating a meat-based diet because that's what I'm doing, and that is the bulk of my meals is meat, and then I might have some garlic butter or whatever. Doesn't really matter. But that's what I'm basing it on. So shall we just call it a meat-based diet from now on? I'm on a meat-based diet. That would pretty much better describe what I'm doing. And there are no hard and fast rules. Even when I'm said that when I was doing my 30-day, was trying to do it anyway, or 4-week strict carnivore diet. I got a lot of shit the first day from someone because I made chicken broth and that wasn't classified as proper strict carnivore because that should only be meat and salt, or I mean beef and salt. So that person has clearly taken this from what Michaela was doing, for example, and taking it to its extreme. And I think that might be, we want to call that a autoimmune elimination carnivore diet maybe, or something, but that is not the carnivore diet. The carnivore diet is anything including meat or animal-based products, in my opinion. So again, it's just a matter of what we call things. So I'm eating a meat-based diet. Paleo was healthiest for me 10 years ago. I am reverting, and if still consider myself carnivore. Yeah, I've been doing paleo as well, but I think keto suits me a lot better than paleo. So Stephanie said something along the lines of the beta cells stopped working for this client because of fasting and eating too much protein, relying on gluconeogenesis. Yeah, I want to see some proof of that. You can say a lot of things online. It's very easy to say, but I mean, why would your beta cells stop working because you were fasting or eating too much protein? They are the polar opposites. So if you are fasting, your beta cells will not have a lot to do, which is probably a very good thing if you are getting insulin resistant. And if you're eating a lot of protein, you will get some gluconeogenesis, but there's a limit to how much you are normally going to do. And as I said, if you are overdoing it, it's probably because you are heavily insulin resistant already. So, I would like to see some proper lab tests saying that, yes, my beta cells do not work anymore, and this is exactly what I've been doing, etc. I just don't believe that is the case. I don't think that is true. I can't see how that would be working. There's nothing physiologically that would support that theory at all. And if that is something that she has seen in one person, they might be down to something else. If you were seeing that, in everyone, then for sure. Then I think we need to look into that, but I don't think that is the case. Okay. So say the same thing again. I'm getting two things. 5p. Thank you so much. I didn't know you were here because I was saying yesterday I haven't seen you for a while, but maybe you're just sneaking around because you haven't said anything. Thank you so much for the super chat. Now I need to find my way back on the chat here. You never have any questions either. God. Holy shit. Okay. Jesus, there's a lot of comments here. Okay, so apparently a 1-year carnivore diet this client was on. Okay, cool. Hey man, do you have... What you could do is if you have a lot of data and more information on this client that could be helpful, like everything, do you have any, any blood tests, etc.? If you could send all of that to my email, I will have a look at it and kind of try and figure out what's going on. But I do really not believe that your beta cells would stop working just eating meat. Not even if you were eating meat without the fat. I don't think that would be the case. I think you would get thyroid problems, but I don't think you would destroy your beta cells. Oi! What the fuck is that? Oh, I said fuck again. It's the third time today. What are you doing? Bloody hell. Humanimal, 1 year is not long enough. No, I don't think it's long enough to conclude that that was causing it. But sure, of course it can turn up when you are being carnivore. But the question is it getting better or worse? It should be getting better. So, the whole full medical history and whatever else is going on there would be very helpful. Yeah. Whatever low fat too. I don't think so, Humanimal. I mean, he might have answered after that, but since if that was a client of Stephanie's, was probably eating 200 grams of fat per day. Carnivore diet is more than an elimination diet. I like rich tapestry approaches such as what Harry Sipanos exposes. Strict may be helpful to heal, but there's much more to carnivore. Yeah, I totally agree. If you have a condition that you need to heal, if you're autoimmune, whatever, strict carnivore is probably absolutely best thing that you can do. But if you just want to be healthy, there's probably no need for you to be that strict. Absolutely not. Oh my goodness. My ex just had huge stones removed from tubes of gallbladder and had gallbladder removed. His new partner, militant vegan, and he took all the cheese, etc., out of his diet the last few years. Oh, that's interesting. So last few years. Now we're talking few years here. If we start talking in year terms, maybe we can actually blame the militant vegans for this happening. And she's had a hip replacement at 50. They both look ill now. Yeah, that's very sad. It's so sad that this is happening, but what is even worse is that these people still think that they are on the best diet. They don't realize that they think that they would have been even worse off if they had had a different diet, which they might have if it was a crap diet, but there is a better diet than being vegan. Too much fat equals poop. Yes, that is if you eat too much for you. I like Stephanie, but I just can't do 200 grams of fat. Maybe 100, but not 200. Yeah. So I personally probably, if I'm eating like a proper keto carnivore and very, very few carbs, which I do most of the time, I can get up to, you know, maybe 150 grams of fat if I'm allowed to use butter, but it's hard for me. So I totally agree with you. 100 is probably more where I would naturally end up if I wasn't adding it and trying to, do it on purpose. Monk mode. I read that apple cider vinegar's main benefits were inhibiting amylase to blunt carb breakdowns, and it may count as a short-chain fatty acid like butyrate for feeding colonocytes. Okay, I haven't actually heard about the function as a short-chain fatty acid like butyrate. I might have to write this down because that's quite interesting. I think anyway. Yeah. Very interesting. I've never heard that. So definitely needs to be looked into, I think, when I have time. Cool, thanks. I'll start having it again. Yeah. Cheryl says, don't overdo the apple cider vinegar. It will leach your calcium from your bones, plus it tastes awful. Yeah, I agree with the last one. It could probably do that if you are doing a lot of it, but, if you're doing a tablespoon or 2 per day, it's probably going to be fine. Okay, Heyman says, I tried Snake Dye's kidney drink and almost threw up. Lol, easy to take citric acid. It's a drink meant to dissolve stones. There are chemicals in apple cider vinegar and lemon that dissolve the oxalate. Okay, so actually I'll add that to my apple cider vinegar research. I'm just not seeing, I mean, how would you get it to dissolve the stones? I don't know, but it's interesting. Okay, I just don't know how it works. Okay, cool. Stand corrected. Yes, she looks super lean cut. Yeah, she did tell me, or she did say it sometime, what her fat percentage was, and it wasn't unnecessarily low. It was low, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend anyone to go lower than she is. But she's not, she's not like some people that just starve themselves. Cole's recipe uses baking soda and magnesium sulfate. It's gross. We just use sodium chloride and potassium chloride and a little lemon on fast. Fair enough. So, Monk Mode, are you using the lemon for the kidneys as well? Is that what the purpose is? Believe me, the body structure makes a lot of difference. I can't train out my thin wrists even if my muscles look better than years ago. Yeah. It's funny how we are so different. It's like I always thought that my legs were really disproportionate. Like because I have wider hips naturally, I always thought that I was fat when I was a skinny kid. And my thighs are naturally quite large, but then I have tiny little calves, and I always thought that looked a bit strange. But then I've always kind of been jealous of these football girls because they have like nice, thick, fucking dickhead outside my window, and I was swearing again. Can you piss off? I had to pull the curtains. Uh, and yeah, so I always envied all these football girls when they had like really nice chunky calves because they would look really good on me. So we all have these body dysmorphias or whatever that we just wish that we had a different kind of body, but we're stuck with what we have and we can only work with what we have. And the ideal might not be what we're actually having. And the question is, why is that the ideal? Is because we are projecting it as the ideal. So, just go and look good. with what you have. I think be happy with it. Just be grateful when you actually have a functioning body, because so many people that are actually going on the carnivore diet doing it because they don't have functional bodies anymore. They are broken and they have been abusing themselves with nutrition that is not good for them for many, many years. So yeah, I'm all for health and well-being rather than looking good, even though that's obviously a nice thing and it feels good to look good, but it feels even better to actually feel good, especially if you have ever been somewhere where you don't feel good. You kind of stop prioritizing that rather than looking good. The good thing with cold snatches recipes that you can add or subtract the amounts to suit you. The Epsom salt nope. Yeah, I said the same thing. It just goes straight through me, and I'm gonna have to sit on the toilet for hours if I put that in. Come see the resources on fast. I will link it in the Discord. Okay, I can't remember what your Discord was. Let me know, monk node mode. Tell me what the Discord is. I will try to join. I do have a Discord account, but I'm not very good with things, so. Haleman has the thinnest wrists and can still punch holes through heavy bags. You gotta get a punching bag and hand grips. Yeah, I mean you can still be super strong but look very skinny. It's absolutely possible. That's just in your genes. Skim milk equals Coke. Code dragon. We have a new dragon here. Wrists are the hardest part to put any muscle on, if any. Okay. John Wiggle. Why is it that casein and whey is inflammatory for some people but not eating beef? Because there are different proteins. Beef is totally different to milk. That's not the same thing. As Nick said, Nick is actually, I'm have to say this now, Nick Patterson, who has been a guest on my channel 3 times so far, is coming live with me next Saturday. So if you have any, or Sunday, depending on where you are in the world. So if you have any questions with regard to insulin resistance, HOMA IR, also the craft, which I will be covering this week because he wanted to talk about that as well, or other biomarkers, etc., or even training, bring them next week for the live session, which, by the way, will start 2 hours earlier because he is in Finland and he didn't want to do it in the middle of the night. So I will be here at 7 a.m. my time, and that will be 8 p.m. in Finland, so it suits us both. And just don't miss it because of the time. So yes, so what he was talking about anyway is that he can do really well with A2 protein, but not A1. So they are different proteins and they look different structurally, and you don't just react differently to them. Personally, I don't do well with whey protein. So when we're talking A1, A2, that's casein. Most people would react to casein rather than whey. But you could have an inflammatory response to any kind of protein if you're unlucky. It's just that clearly most people don't, or most, I say most, I don't even know if it's most, but many people don't do well with that protein, and that's just in our genes, and we can't digest it the way that we're supposed to do. It might have different sugars. That's usually what you have sugars or proteins and sugars, like glycoproteins on the outside of the cell membranes, which would trigger your immune system because they look very similar to pathogens. So that's usually why you get a response to different things. And different people will recognize different things as pathogens and respond to them. So that's why I might be allergic to cats, but you're not. Animal base equals ancestral in my mind. Yep, I agree. That's very true. And but in ancestral, you could probably also include eating some leaves and roots and stuff that you can dig up. Yes, broth is definitely carnivore meat based. I agree. Let's see what Heyman has to say. And my chat is jumping again. I think the idea was that if the beta cells don't have anything to do, they stop working, and low blood sugar as a result of all the fasting. That was her theory. Okay, so the first bit is just actually bullshit. Yes, they can get lazy if you are fasting for a very long period of time. You can temporarily become insulin resistant, and that is the same thing if you are on a proper keto diet or such, so that you don't need any insulin or much insulin released. So that's why many people want to include some carbs in their diet so that they are what we call metabolically flexible. They won't stop making insulin indefinitely. They might take them a few days, maybe up to a week, to actually catch up again and be, responsive enough to whatever carbs you're eating. But that doesn't mean that you are insulin resistant over time. That means that you're insulin resistant for one. If you're having one high carb meal every 3 months, you might be very insulin resistant doing that as a result of a very low carb diet, or possibly fasting as well. But over time, nah, I do not buy that. Okay, so apparently Ken Berry had a good video released on yesterday on dairy. Cool. I like Ken Berry. Go look at it. I don't know what it says, but I'm gonna write that down as well. I'm interested. Okay. Some people are not adapted to the consumption of casein and whey after adulthood, but it may also be an underlying problem, as I believe most humans should tolerate some form of dairy. Yeah, usually what we grow out of, though, is the ability to process lactose rather than the proteins. Yummy! Our ancestors knew to make bacteria work for the work the food before we eat it. Yummy, yummy. Oh, yes, I'll come and chat with you. Oh, I'll come and read anyway. I'm not very good with these chatty social media things. I find it takes so much time. But if you tell me where to go, I'll come and have a look. Go back to your pizza bar. Stop disturbing Pim. Yes, very good. Dairy gets too much of a bad rep. It's actually a really rich food, milk itself. So those who are blessed to tolerate it, please consider using it more so if you are not looking for weight loss. Yes. I don't think it's if you are doing well with dairy, just do it. But if you can get raw dairy, it's probably a lot better for you. It's just that I'm not doing well with it myself. So it's heartbreaking. Her 15-year-old daughter has anorexia because mom has such crap ideas and poor body image. Who are we talking about? Is that Michaela Peterson? Is that who we're talking about? Is her daughter 15? Holy shit. That must be who you're talking about. Trying to read back in the chat. Okay. I didn't know that. Her mom has crap ideas and poor body image. Maybe she has poor body image. I don't know anything about that. But I think for her, it was necessary to do what she did to actually get rid of her autoimmune disease. That might have affected her body image and what's healthy, etc. And when you do something and it's working for you, it's so easy to project that onto other people. Now, if her daughter actually has anorexia, that's very, very sad. And I hope they can sort that out. But I think for Michaela, that was probably necessary to do that for her to actually survive. Oh, monk mode. My last persistent symptom is eczema. It's either dairy or eggs. I just seem to be incapable of cutting them out. So, are both of them causing it, or is it just one or the other, and you don't know because you can't cut any of them out? Why don't you cut one out at a time for like 3-4 weeks and see what happens? Oh, fuck. No, I'll say it again. I should probably just go into the next room and sit on the nutrition science watchdog to swear. Today is a lot of swearing going on. I have eczema in my ear canal, no matter how healthy I get. That is awful. I have, like, when I get hay fever, I get a lot of itching in my ears, and that is something that could easily drive me crazy. Okay. Apple cider vinegar contains the chemical acetic acid, which has been shown to lower oxalate levels. I believe there was a study done on it. Okay, cool. All vinegar contains acetic acid. That's what vinegar contains. And then lemon for citrate. Okay. Citrate chelates calcium out of the calcium and oxalate structure that are kidney stones, something like it. Yes. But what does acetic acid do? Oh, you bought Giddy girlfriend. Yes. We live in the same house. He lives there behind me. At least his office does. Yeah. There's no telling him to behave himself. He won't do it. Humanimal. You can have some of my calves. I have gymnast calves. I would love that. Yes. Value your body and thank you for carrying you through life. Learn to dress it to advantage. Oh, yeah, I might have to work on that last part. I'm like a comfort creature. I just want to wear whatever is soft and cozy and nice. Pim should see what we're up to on Bar's Discord. And the thing is that I can't be bothered to sit and read shit. I have too many other things to do. Okay, so here we go. Well, I'm not in Bart's Discord, so I wouldn't know. I'll just write that down. That's like very, very strange. So excuse me for wasting your time like this. There we go. What the fuck? Don't talk to Code Dragon, aka Green Guy. He makes people's streams glitch and he calls me Blue Guy. Well, you're kind of blue, aren't you? Okay, see you later, Hugh Animal. Thank you so much. Please Pim come to Discord so you can hear my broken English with Brazilian accent. Joke, I've been practicing, so not as bad. Okay then, just to hear you. Okay, alright, okay. So my vegan ex and his partner's daughter, I see. Now I'm with you. Thank God. Michaela, I agree. Necessary, but then projection. Yeah. Sometimes it's really hard for me to follow what you're talking about because I'm reading all the comments as quick as I can, and I can't always remember who said what, and then someone started talking about something, and I can't remember what it was or what. So this is very funny. So I'm not as stupid as I might appear, or maybe I am. Hey man, I get eczema really bad. Basically, I'm allergic to most red meat, dairy, and eggs. Pork is a good option. Watch the fermented foods, stay disciplined. It's funny that you are doing well with pork. That's usually one thing that's the thing that I'm going to make a video on as well, because that's usually something that is not great for everyone. What's my background? My background is that I am I've done lots of things. I've been doing personal training for many years. Diet advising, as in taking I don't even know, 2-week course or whatever you do full time to become a diet advisor. Then I became a nutritionist, master's degree in nutrition. And then I went on and got a bachelor's degree in biomedical science. I'm a bulletproof coach. What else do I have? I don't know. I have lots of little things that I've been studying because I love being a student of things. I love it. However, having said that, I do not rate degrees very highly because a lot of the time they don't really teach you things that matter when you're doing degrees. So it might sound really good on paper, but you need to use your own brain and your own research and apply that to actually be able to use it for something useful. But lives at his office desk. That answers so many questions. Yes, doesn't it? Discord had a voice chat we sometimes use. Reading and typing isn't always something you have to do. No, I would probably prefer to just talk. It's easier. If I do it on my PC, I can type fairly quickly, but if it's on my phone, and not so much. Harry's in the house. Hi, Pim. Just got up, had a late night with friends. Hello, Harry. You are just actually my last comment here, so I might be shutting this down very soon, but you're very welcome. And for those of you who are here, I'm assuming that Harry will have his live stream later today, as well as the Nutrition Science Watchdog, this one. I have a dodgy judgment in picking a man, obviously. Yes, I think we all can agree on that. We all make our mistakes in life, and sometimes we have to live with them, literally. Letting your hair down, Harry. Yeah, at least he has hair to let down. I wonder if someone's gonna bang the wall soon again. Someone's being offended. So, guys, do you have any more questions, comments, or just things that you want to let me know? You better do it now. Otherwise, we're actually going to finish before 2 hours this week, which will be like super cool because that hasn't really happened. Yes, waha. Harry, yes, in 4 hours. So, yeah, you can probably calculate your own time. I was going to say 3 o'clock here, but that doesn't really matter because most of you are not from New Zealand, so it wouldn't really apply to you. Necro says, I feel like the zero carbers who are fine without salt blanket think all people can live without salt. I suspect something like this is happening with vitamin C. Okay. It might be. I mean, so if you're having fresh meat, it does contain an amount of vitamin C. And if you're eating enough of it, you should get enough vitamin C to be sufficient, unless you have a lot of carbs that you need to process as well. And I think that's probably true, but the quality of the meat that you're getting as well. So with vitamin C will probably break down over time to some degree. And if you're cooking it a lot, it probably breaks down as well. So, excuse me. So it's entirely possible that you could maybe be deficient in vitamin C. And if that's you, just, supplement with a few blueberries or whatever you want to do. Whatever works for you. You're gonna let your woman talk about you like that, Barty Bart, or is it that how you get your jollies on? Maybe he disconnected again. My teeth are all bald, so are mine, I hope. Did I have an opinion regarding the SNPs in that study? I mean, I don't think they were testing what they said they were testing, so I don't know. That's why I would like to see a proper low carb diet compared to a low fat diet. Obviously, people with a low fat SNP, when I don't know if they were actually doing better on the low fat, but they said that they couldn't find anything. So no, I don't really have an opinion because I haven't really looked into that any closer to see if there's any other research on those at all. Sorry. I wish I had, but there's so many things that you could do and everything takes a lot of time. So sorry, I can't give you a good answer with regards to that. So no, I don't have an opinion because I haven't looked into it properly. Let her. Yeah, it's the same with him. You can't tell him anything. So if I can't tell him anything, he can't tell me anything. So we just do whatever you want. Clearly. Like disturbing each other's live streams. I'm having to take. I'll see what I do to disturb his live stream later in 10 minutes plus. Those obesity SNPs are from an I can't even say it today. Associational studies. I can say it when I'm not trying to read it at the same time. Yes. There you go. Okay, so that was funny. I hope it wasn't my pronunciation. I hope it was Bart's comment. Otherwise, I'm very disappointed with you, Fapnado. Very, very sad that you're laughing at me. So, yeah, as I said, just quickly, next week, live stream will be 2 hours earlier, and I will have Nick with me here from Finland. We will be talking about insulin resistance. We'll be talking about HOMA-IR, Kraft test, inflammatory hysteresis, training if you want to. I'm not sure he had planned on talking about that, but if you have questions about that, and I think many of you do, please bring them because the way he's training his clients is not for everyone. And obviously, if you're very sport specific, that might not really apply to you, but there might be ways that you want to kind of train this way to incorporate it in some way. So just, if you haven't checked out my videos with him, go back, have a look at those videos. And if you have specific questions for him, just bring them for next week and we will address them all live. So I won't be talking so much next week. Pim, are we still on for that drum lesson while Bart is having a live stream? That is a very, very good idea. I haven't kind of unpacked the drums yet. They're sitting in the corner, so I can't really play them right now. But yes, I might do some practicing another weekend. My English is better than Shell's, apparently. Great stream, thank you. I'm not sure it is, but thank you very much. I assume that most of you can understand me, otherwise you wouldn't even be here. So let's end it early, 7 minutes before time. That would be super cool. I haven't done that for a long time. NecroKitty has something to say. Not the greatest idea to spam emoji. YouTube Google has a bug that reports it as mass spamming and deletes people's YouTube accounts along with the Gmail attached to it. They delete the Gmail? Seriously? That's not okay. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fapnado and 5P, for your very kind donations. I haven't seen Streamlabs, but if someone was donating there, thank you so much as well. If you still want to do it, that's the link that you can do it on, and you will find it in the comments as well. And if you want to have a better look at the study that I was talking about, you can always go to the link, which is also in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much for being here and chatting with me. And yes, I will have a look at Discord later today, I think. Okay. Thanks, Monk Mode, and NecroKitty, thanks for your your insight into emojis and deleting accounts. I have no idea about that. And also, thank you so much for all the extra. I mean, I'm giving you information on here, but a lot of the time you are giving me a lot of information and knowledge as well. And I really do appreciate when you are coming up with those things, because one person can't know everything. There's not enough time for any one person to read everything and know everything. So whatever you have, just share it widely. I do appreciate that. Thanks, Harry. You're more than welcome to watch it. And as usual, I probably won't be watching yours because I'm going to go kayaking when the live stream is finished. So if you're not finished by the time that Harry is starting his live stream, I'm going to go and disturb the live stream in there because I want to go kayaking while it's still light outside. Okay, thank you so much. Bye. I will see you again next week, 2 hours earlier than today. Take care and see you then. Bye.